Hi, fellow traders. I hope everybody had a great day today. I know me, I lost about 5 years off of my life, but it wasn't just because of trading, it was a combination of things. But it, it was an interesting day to say the least. The first thing I'm going to share with you is, what I wanted to share with you last night concerning the small account. There's some things that I had to identify and work through. And, I wanted to share those with you. But, it's really been a very frustrating couple of weeks. And, just like this guy, sometimes I just want to put my fist through that damn monitor, reach out and grab the market and shake it to death. But, the market isn't the problem. It's not the market's fault. It's my fault. I bear the burden of all the responsibility. And until we're able to bear the burden of the responsibility for our trading, whether it's because the broker messed up or the platform froze, it doesn't matter. When we make a decision to trade, to enter into an agreement with the broker or whatever, we accept responsibility for anything that happens. Because ultimately, it's coming out of our pocket. So, I'm going to take responsibility for everything that I've done, all the mistakes that I made. And, we'll go forward from there. Now, once I talk about the small account thing, there's a very interesting trade that I took today that was somewhat out of character. I've done it a couple times, but it's not something I do. It's not something I would teach. But, the day just unfolded that way. So, we'll cover that after we talk about the small account deal. So I got a new slogan. I kind of tweaked my logo a little bit. Looks a little bit different, but I wanted a slogan that pretty much depicts how I got to where I am. And I built my dream one trade at a time. I didn't get too far ahead of myself. I took my time and I accepted one trade at a time. We can even expand this to one trade at a time, one day at a time. Because we just have to go through one day at a time. And, that's just the nature of this. And I think I lost sight of this when I started doing this small account deal. And I'm already getting people, telling me that it can't be done. I've done it 5 times already. Okay? Or 6 times. This is how I started. I started with $1,500 in a SureTrader account. And yeah, I had to refund it 5 or 6 times, but that's where I started. And I grew out of this. It's well documented in my blog, and then I came over to the videos. My whole journey is right there for you to see and read. So if you haven't checked it out, you can check that out. That tells you my whole story. But it can be done. You have to have the right mindset, and you have to approach this thing the right way. Because if you get too far ahead of yourself, you're going to fall on your face. And that's not what you want to do. A lot of traders have failed. A lot of traders will swear up and down to the day they die that it's impossible to make money in SureTrader. But it is. You have to know how to deal with it. And most traders lost money because they had no experience. They just jumped in this. SureTrader was the first broker because that's all they could get. And being inexperienced and jumping in that, you're probably going to lose all your damn money. More than once. But that's why I'm streaming my platform live. I'm not doing it to embarrass myself because I like to be embarrassed. I'm doing it to show you just how difficult it is, just how you can get caught up into things and you can lose sight of what you need to be doing. You know, right now, these past couple of weeks, I shouldn't have been as aggressive. But there's some things that I sat down and I thought about yesterday, and I wanted to share them with you last night. Now, we talked about this in depth in our small account program today, but I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what I identified are the things that kind of got me off on the wrong track and what I'm going to need to right the ship. I've got to get back to what brought me to where I am today. That's one trade at a time, one day at a time. I've got to get back to that. So how am I going to do that? I got to be less aggressive. I was so conservative when I first started. There were days where I didn't take a trade. And the focus that I have in the all-day holds that I've been trading this month, that's the focus. Because if there wasn't a good setup, I didn't take it. When there was a good setup, I took it. Therefore, I'm not red a day trading those. I've got 5 days already this month that I didn't take a trade. But the days I took a trade, I'm green. Because I wasn't really aggressive. I was more focused on finding the right stocks. And I wasn't that focused on finding the right stocks in the small account because I was trying to get, a couple $100 on every trade. So I've got to stop thinking about the amount of profit I want and really trade the chart, the price action, and stop holding out. There was 3 or 4 trades that I was up over $100 on. After I went back and looked at it, I was up, over $150. And I should have taken profit there. At least taken half off, if not the whole thing. But I'm trying to make this $200. And guys, I don't trade that way. I learned a long time ago you can't trade with monetary goals because you put too much pressure on yourself and you bring all these emotions into it. And you just can't do that. So I've got to stop thinking about the profit and say, okay, I just need to, right now, I need to be consistently green. So right now, I need to look at, okay, the average cost of my trades at SureTrader, round trip's going to be $12. So when I plan a trade, if it's not at least 6 or 7 times that $12, let's say just round it to $75. If it's not at least $75 profit potential, I don't need to take the trade. I don't. Because, look, if I make $75 a day, that is $375 a week. That's $1,500 a month. And that $1,500 a month turns into $18,000 for the year. Now, we're not, when you're trying to get out of this, you're not trying to spend all your profits. So even if you only average $75 a day over the course of the year, you would at least have $18,000 toward your goal of, I'm going to say $30,000, because you don't want to open an account with just $25, because if you take a loss on your first trade, you're under the 25 grand minimum. So I'm going to say 30. You're just over halfway to your 30 grand. Because the goal is to work our way out of SureTrader and into a regular broker. And yeah, you can save money throughout the year. And you can have that so that you can get there that much faster. Now, there's some people that will say just save up enough and open up a regular account. Well, I really, really don't advocate, and this is my personal belief, I really don't advocate you starting in a fully funded account like that and you've never traded live. You never traded your own money. That's a totally different feeling. And if you're not prepared for it, it's not going to happen. So what I always recommend is starting small. Because in a small account, you have to be disciplined. You have to be incredibly focused. And you learn how to follow your trade plan. Because if you don't, you're not going to make money. So you got to follow your trade plan. And when you build that discipline and skill, by the time you get a fully funded account, you're going to take off. You're going to hit the ground running. You're not going to be sitting there like a deer with that deer in the headlight look, talking about, what do I do now? I got all this. I got a $30,000 account. What do I do? You can spend a year in the simulator, but that does not really prepare you for the emotions you're going to feel when your own money is on the line. So why not start small? Why not build up that tolerance the right way? I feel, it's just like we learned everything else growing up. We started small and we built our way up. And that's how things stuck with us. So I got to stop thinking about profit and start focusing on the trade. Because like I always say, you develop the skill and trade for that skill, the profit's going to be there at the end of the day. And that's how it happened for me. Again, sniper-like focus. You got to have that sniper-like focus and pick the best possible setup. And I was taking chances. I was getting in early, not waiting for things to confirm. And I was being too aggressive and picking trades that, may not be the most perfect, but it might get me some profit. I got to stop that. And I got to focus on the mid-cap stocks between $15 and $40. Eventually, if I do good for a couple of weeks, I can go 60, 70, $80 stocks. But right now, I'm not there yet. And I'm trying to jump ahead of myself. $15 to $40 in that range. If I don't have a setup, I don't trade. It's just that simple. And that's the way we ran it the last time. And that's the way I needed to do it, right now. So let's look at my stats from last year when I first started this again. October. Now, I couldn't trade Alma because my account got hacked. But I got my trades up to this point. And for October, I started $1,500 this time. That time. And started over. And I ended up 66% profitable, which was nice. Because I traded small. I took small wins. Look at my average winning trade. $50.13. Now, my average losing trade was more. And trading small size, your numbers are going to be skewed. I know we shoot for 2 to 1. Winning trade versus losing trade. I know that. But when you're trading small, you're going to get stopped out a little bit more often than the average person. That's going to happen. But if your win percentage, my profitability percentage was 66.67, so I won, more times than I lost. So I did make a little bit of money. Okay, and again, with trading small, it's going to be tough. You're going to grow slower. You got to be okay. A lot of you guys haven't been green ever. But so if you see $50 a day average green, you should be ecstatic because you're doing something. You're on your way. You grow from there. Once you develop and you get comfortable, you double your position size or add a little bit to it until you start to feel uncomfortable again. Then go backwards, trade that, and then try to add size later on. It's a process that we go through. And again, I was jumping ahead of the process. But I wanted to show you this just to show you that, hey, I started out slow the last time. I started out real slow. We don't stay that way. Because here's November. You can see we started to pick up in November. A little bit better. The $500 week here. Then I had a little bad week here. $174. And then look, almost $1,000 week here. And then here, $800 week. The week of Thanksgiving. And, it just got better from there. But what I had to do was gradually build myself up. I had to be comfortable trading small. And, which is where my problem lies right now. I'm too aggressive. I've got to scale it down and trade a little bit smaller and have more logical profit targets so that I'm not letting a stock that gives me $150 pull all the way back and stop me out for a $150 loss. Because I'm being a little bit over aggressive in a smaller account. Can't do that. So that's my focus. We're hitting the reset button. Didn't take any trades in it today. You can I can probably thank SureTrader for that. They had a trouble with uploading between them and iBoss. iBoss gives them all kind of trouble sometimes because that's the clearing firm, I guess. I don't know how it works. Maybe SureTrader owns iBoss too. I don't know. But if iBoss is messed up, then the numbers are going to be messed up at SureTrader, which I could have traded on 2-to-1 margin, but it just wasn't worth it. There was nothing out there for me to trade. And if I don't think it's a solid A+ setup, I'm not jumping in it. It's not going to happen anymore. All right, so let's talk about our trade from today. Man, I got to hand it to you. I got to hand it to myself. This was, it was indescribable what I went through on this. Now, you can see we've been trending down. Now, we had some bad news that came out saying that the bid was rejected or either pulled or whatever. So the stock was coming in. And we were trending down, as you can see. So I felt real confident getting in this. So I got in and, was looking for it to sell off. This was going to be my all-day hold. I felt we were going to bleed out all day, probably pull down to here. I was going to take profit here, let it bounce. And if it didn't stop me back out at break even, just kind of let it run. Or if it did, wait for the reset, get back in, and take it. Well, my wife was going out of town. We had a lot to do today. She was getting ready to go out of town, and we had to go to get our passports renewed, and we had an appointment for that. And it's just a lot going on. But she knows at 9:30, I got to be focused in the market. But that didn't happen this morning. Not long after the bell rang, I got in this trade. It was working pretty good. She tells me she needs me to do something. And I'm like, okay, I'll go. I didn't put my hard stop in. because I felt pretty confident that we wasn't going to blow back up here at the time. And I was like, I was only gone outside to help her for a minute and a half tops. It wasn't long at all. But when I walked back in the door, we were up here. This thing had run all the way up. And I got that deer in the head like, look, I can't say what I said out loud, but, I was like, what? I didn't want to take it off because I'm down, 5 or 6 points. And I'm like, it's hard pill to swallow. So I started looking, trying to figure out what happened. And I saw some news come out that another company would put out a bid or something, and they're seriously considering it. And I thought to myself for a second, this got to be a rumor. If neither side, if it didn't come from either side, it's a rumor. So people are buying the rumor is what was going on. And I always know that, hey, you buy the rumor, but when the news comes out, you sell it. It's going to sell off. So I held on to it. And I almost, it got up, it kept going. And I was kind of worrying about, is this thing going to turn around or not? I was numb, is what it was. I mean, my hands felt like they were asleep. It was just it's one of those feelings you just don't want to feel. But I had to have confidence in my assessment. So I said, I'm going to sit tight. And as long as this doesn't explode back, I'm going to hang on to it. Because, in reality, losing $5,000 in this account would be like losing $100 in my $1,500 account. That's if you want to compare apples to apples. So, it's no big deal being down. Now, if you're in a small account, yeah, this is a big deal. Right now, it's not a big deal. I've seen traders average up a hell of a lot more than this, waiting for the short. So I went ahead and added up here when I felt we had, we were showing signs of reaching the top. I went ahead and added and brought my average up. It was around 167.70 or something, somewhere in there was where I averaged up to. And I still had a couple hundred shares that I could add if I needed to, but I kind of wanted to save those. And we just started showing some weakness here. Now this candle pulled way up, which kind of disturbed me a little bit, but then we came right back down to the 9, and I'm like, look, we probably can't make a new high. And I just held on to it. And I had to leave around 11 when I always take my lunch to go, meet my wife. But this was starting to work, and I still felt pretty good. Now I was still down a pretty good bit. It was hanging around 170. Then it finally cracked through 169. I was still down about 2 points at this point. But I was comfortable with it. It was doing just what I thought it would do. And so it just kept working. Now, here around this time, we're sitting waiting, because one of the things that add to my frustration, my wife was late, so we had 3 people that had to go in front of us. And we were sitting and we were next. And the guy decides to go to lunch early and left us and 3 or 4 other people there waiting. He just left early and went to lunch. And nobody else would come and, do his thing. So that really added to my frustration. But I'm watching this on my phone. And then when this hits, and I saw this thing fall, I was like, oh shit. And I went to get up and run outside. People looked at me like I was crazy. But I had to cut my car on and cut the computer back on, wait for the internet to connect, and then, get in. So by the time I could catch this, we were up here. And I didn't know if we were going to pull back or anything, because I'd already fought myself about taking it off here at break even. But I decided, I've held through all of this. I might as well see what I can get out of it. But, I caught it here thinking we may be bouncing. And then we pulled back and hit the level that I should have been taking profit at anyway. So it bounced here a little bit, sold back off. And I was like, look, I better take profit here because this might, be double bottoming here. It's like we tried here, we tried here, we tried here. I figured this might be it. But I took some off here. And I had a quarter position still left on to see if we would get my final target of around 158. I think the low was around 157.80s. So I just put mine at 158 in case it got there. But it didn't. When it started to look like we were going to bounce, I went ahead and took it off. Didn't make any sense for me to risk it pulling all the way back and me stopping out up here. I just locked in what I had, and that was a trade. So it worked out. It worked out beautifully. But this is not me. This is probably the third or fourth time I've ever done something like this. Typically, I would, if I was sitting here, I would have stopped out real quick. But I wasn't, and that kind of put me in a position. So I just made my bed, and I laid down and waited to see what was going to happen, and everything worked out. So, pretty pleased with that. So that was my day. 23.63.74. Seems surreal considering, I'm looking at this. I was down $3,000-$5,000 probably. I don't know. I don't watch my P&L, so I don't know what it was. But I know I felt the heat. That I could say. I did feel the heat. But I'm really proud of, once I got caught, I'm really proud of how I managed it. So, I give myself a pat on the back for that. But that was it for today. I'm going to chill out the rest of the night. Try to watch a funny movie. Something to really keep the mood light. So like I said, we're hitting the reset button on a small account. I realize what I've been doing wrong. I realize why I've been doing it. And, we're going to get that fixed too. So good. I didn't plan it this way. I didn't plan to make a jackass of myself the first couple of weeks, but it happened. You guys got to see it live. You get to see everything that happens. You get to see it live and in color every day. Sometimes it's raw, but that's the only way to really get a good feel for how this really is going to be. So I'll take a couple of hits for the team. I don't have a problem doing that. So you guys take it easy. Have a great night, a great evening, and I'll see you first thing in the morning.